Okay, now that we've got a little bit of a handle on arrays and big data sets or data sets like this, what can we do with them? So now we want to start thinking about just calculating basic statistics. So let's look at calculating statistics with arrays. Okay. So the following code is going to create a 11 by 11 random number array. All right, and just like we've had to do before, we need to import NumPy as NP, and I want to get that random, the NumPy random import in there as well. So from numpy.random, we want to import default underscore RNG, random number generator. That's what RNG stands for, okay? So we want to bring in both of those, all right? And we'll do that. So let's create a 11 by 11, right? So 11 by 11, so it's going to be, what's that, 42 numbers? Is that right? No, it's more than that. Well, let's see what we come up with. So we want a let's assign this to be G. We want default RNG 42. That's the random start. All right, so we'll use that same random start 42. You can use whatever random start you want. If you left this blank, then it would be whatever you wanted to put, whatever. It just would come up with a random start. But we want you to be able to replicate this. So 11 by 11 was at 132, the whole total number of values. So a random array, and so we want to put this array as an 11 by 11 array. Okay. I also want to multiply all this by 100. All right. So a couple of different ways of doing it. You can do G and then times equals 100. I think that works. Nope, maybe it does. We'll find out. And then I just want to, we'll take a look at the variable view up here and see what we get. Okay, so let's run this code. Run that. All right, we haven't used NumPy, that's why that's still there. Let's run that. Let's create this array. So there's my 11 by 11 array. And I want to multiply everything in G by 100. Let's see if that works. That works too. So this works. You could also do, if I ran this again, right, get the same numbers. I could also do G equals G times 100. Right, that would also work. So either way gives you the same thing. So it's just a different, I kind of like this a little better because I know what I'm doing. I'm reassigning G to be G, the original G times 100. But either way works. So it could be either this or G times equals 100 would also work. All right, and so now we see G. Let's just take a look at it. I want to print G so we can see it down here in our console. All right, that's really hard to get around, but whatever. It's just a lot of numbers, right? So it's 11 rows, 11 columns of numbers, right? All different random values. Okay, so now we've created the array. Now we want to determine the maximum and minimum value. So within the array, let's determine the maximum and minimum and identify where it is in the array. Okay. All right, so let's put some code in here. So we know what G is, so let's find, we're gonna come up with, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna assign these to variables so they show up here, okay? In the code that you'll see on Canvas, I'm just outputting it down to the console, but I'm gonna put it in here so I wanna look at it. So we're gonna go Gmax is equal to G.max function. All right, so that's going to give me the maximum value of this array. We want Gmin is going to equal G.min as the function. Then I also want to know Gmax index, that is G.argmax function. So it tells me where the maximum, which argument is the maximum, which one of these things is the maximum. And G min I is G.argmin function. Okay, so that's going to give me the three different values, and I'm going to assign them to variables because I want to see them up here versus kind of losing them in the console down here. Just my personal preference. So let's run these. So Gmax, 97.56222. G minimum is 0.73622. Where the maximum value is, where it is located, it's located, Gmax I is located in number 5. Let's see if that makes any sense. So is that, you'd think that they would give you a little bit of an idea of where that is. 5. Let me take this out just to see if it gives me something different without assigning it to a variable. Yeah, it's just giving me 5, right? Put that back in, and G min is 51. All right, so what it's telling me is it's the 5th number in the entire array. So let's see if we can find it here. So I've got, looking for 97.56. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 would be the 6th item. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's that 97. And the 51st item, well, let's see, this 11 by 11, so this is going to be 0 to 11, 12 to 22, 23 to 33, 34 to 44, and then 45. 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Well, it's right here. I didn't do my counting correctly. So there's my smallest item. That's where the 51st item starts. So 0 to 10, 11 to 21. Right, and that's where that shows up. So that gives me my location. It's not giving me an index location. It's just telling me of the 132 numbers, this is where they lie. All right, so that just helps me figure out what the max and the min is. Location, I might not be that interested. Maybe I am. How about the other statistics that are interesting too? How about the mean, the median, and standard deviation? The first set of code determines the stats for the entire array. So this next set of code that we're going to write determines the stats for the entire array. So basically mean, median, and standard deviation for the entire array. The second set of code determines the first row of the array. So the mean, median, and standard deviation for the first row of the array. The third set determines the stats for the first column of the array. Determines the stats for the first row of the array. Determines the stats for the first column of the array. Okay, so this is what our code is going to try to give us. So, first thing, NP, you'll notice that that little, before I had the little warning sign up here, as soon as I type in NP dot, that goes away because now I'm using it. We want mean of G. We want the median of G. And we want the standard deviation of G. Okay? That'll give me my mean, median, and standard deviation. So let's just run these before we do the second set and the third set. So run that. The mean's 40.94. Again, I can assign this to a value if I wanted to. So we can go G mean equals, we can go G median equals, and we can go G standard deviation equals, right? So if we wanted to put those, assign those to a variable, maybe we need to use the mean, median, and standard deviation in a report or as part of another calculation later. So we can always assign those to variables here. So here we've got 48.94 is our mean. Our median is 47.10, and our standard deviation is 27.15. So that's for the entire array. If I want to look at the row, NP mean of G, but I only want to look at the first row, that's 0, and put my little colon in there. So this same kind of thing here, but now we're defining it just for the first row. NP median of G, but I want the first row, and NP standard deviation of G, but we want the first row. And you shouldn't be surprised that to get the first column, it's NP mean of G. Here we want to get the first row, so it's colon, comma, 0, NP median of G is colon, comma, 0, not 0, and NP standard deviation of the first column is G for colon, comma, 0. Okay, so that should give me my different responses for all of these variables. So let's just take a look at them. I'm not going to assign them to a variable here. We'll just have them come out down here in my console. So the mean of the first row is 57. The median of the first row is 69. And the standard deviation is 28. And then we can look at the first column. Mean is 67. Median 77. And the standard deviation is 25. So you can, it's just a way to kind of show you how to calculate means, median, and standard deviation for the whole array, for specific rows or specific columns, or we could go back to the previous and maybe we want to do it for specific numbers. So it doesn't, it doesn't always have to be rows, columns. It can be specific numbers. If we know the location of those numbers, location of those values, we can put in a much more in-depth calculation of mean, median, and standard deviation, where we would have NP array, not just G, NP array, give all the row information, NP array, all the column information. So just a couple of different ways of calculating mean, median, and standard deviation.